All right, folks, I'm not talking about anything too in depth, but just as a cursory understanding of antinatalism and death, I think it's important. It's an important distinction. So it's kind of like the distinction that kind of hits people right at the front of antinatalism, right? So you think antinatalism and everybody thinks death, death, death. So I think it's important to make that distinction. Antinatalism, the word itself, if the antinatalism means never having been born. So if you were never born, if you had not come into existence, you would not have to die. In fact, the leading cause of death is basically birth. I think it's important to make that distinction because there's people that kind of talk about antinatalism as a genocidal philosophy. I don't see how that matches up because nobody's being killed. Antinatalism just basically says that we shouldn't bring new life onto the planet Earth. But I mean, even in an antinatalist kind of wind down of the human race, nobody's being genocidally murdered because we all die anyway. Like, given antinatalism as a global order or antinatalism as a philosophy, we all we antinatalism is not about existing people being killed. But at the same time, we all die anyway. We all just die. Like, that will happen. So whether you come into existence and you're not an antinatalist and you don't have kids, you will die. Like, you will die. We will all die. Like, there's no ifs and buts about it. We'll all die. So antinatalism isn't talking about killing people. It's not that if you adopt an antinatalist philosophy on life, it means that then without having that proposition, without having that idea of death, you will now have an idea of death because you're an antinatalist now. Like, we all die. And I just want to say that as much as people tout like humanprogress.org, the ingenuity and the availability of ideas when it comes to prolonging the human race and the proliferation of the human race, technology and ideas and innovation and human ingenuity could actually help in the winding down of the human race. So I think that's very possible. I think it's very believable. So what I'm kind of referring to, and I didn't want to go into it, but I will go into it, is that today I was reading about the gender wage gap and how women are seen as being removed from the working world through having children and caregiving roles that don't allow them to make as much as men. And that is very true. That is absolutely true. Women have these roles that are considered unpaid labor, and the unpaid labor basically contributes to less ideas in the workplace, less ideas, et cetera, et cetera. If you reduce or eliminate the burden of childbirth and child rearing for women, you'd find that there is a lot more women out there with ideas from a woman's perspective, that wouldn't have happened otherwise. Because whether there's government policy or anything mitigating women's almost obligations to caretake and take care of kids and old people and all that stuff, you would have better ideas. You just would have better ideas without that. But if you didn't have kids, like if you didn't have kids, your ideas would be much more out there. They would be put out there. And the thing is, what I'm trying to get at is basically, I think with government policy for or against women's participation in the workforce, I think what happens is people underestimate how much resources kids take up. And that was my original idea. So, Yeah, some people think, well, we just need better government policy, but I mean, does anybody think taking care of kids is so easy, is so, nonchalant, as long as you get a couple bucks from the government? You know what I mean? So having kids is kind of a resource sucker, when it comes to ideas and things like that. And we have 7 billion people on the planet Earth, more than 7 billion people on the planet Earth. Like, I mean, do we need more people? You know what I mean? Um, anyway, that's my video. I don't want to go on too much about it. I kind of fucked up on the last little thing, but okay, bye.